Hi, welcome back to the next section of Module 1. In this section, we're going to look at fact-checking methodology, kind of like the broad, overarching anatomy of a fact check. So fact-checking can kind of broadly be defined into or divided into 5 areas of practice: choosing claims, contacting the speaker, tracing claims, working with experts, and showing your work. So let's get into it. So, choosing claims can really be a time-consuming part of the fact-checking process. And this is because you can kind of divide choosing claims into sort of 5 sub-dimensions on how you can evaluate whether a claim should be checked or not. So, the first thing that you look at is newsworthiness. So, this is the characteristic that makes a particular event or topic or piece of information kind of deserving of coverage. How newsworthy something might be is not really universally agreed upon, but generally fact-checking organizations will kind of create their own in-house evaluation system. So you should really kind of focus more on the claims or statements that have the potential to mislead the public or are misleading the public or can impact public discourse. So when you're evaluating the newsworthiness of a claim, it's really important to think about things like, how significant is the claim? How meaningful is the claim? Prioritize claims or statements that kind of have significant implications for public policy, public health, public opinion. These are typically claims made by politicians, public figures, or other influential individuals. And how significant the claim really weighs quite heavily in determining its newsworthiness and its meaningfulness. And you should also look at sort of how impactful the claim is. So claims that could affect beliefs, behavior, or decision making of the audience are particularly important. So for politician claims that some alternative treatment methods for COVID-19 work that don't work, countering this claim becomes quite important. You should also look at things like how viral is the claim. Claims that are circulating quite widely in public discourse, on social media. This kind of influences their newsworthiness. And debunking false information can help prevent spreading it further. But inversely, you should also think about focusing on things that affect enough people. So, if you see a claim and it's really small, it's only got like 10 people kind of following it, for example, and you can't see that this claim is, making its way out into broader society, probably find something that's got a little bit more attention on it. And you should also look at things like, how relevant is the claim? So is it related to an ongoing event? Is it related to an ongoing controversy, ongoing debate that are occurring in society? It's possible that a claim could be viral, but it could also not be really relevant. And you should also look at things like fairness to make sure that you're not overly looking at, for example, one particular political orientation, making sure that you're following kind of the fact-checking mission of being independent. And the last one that's quite important to remember is actual checkability. So how quickly can you check the claim? Is it even possible to check the claim? This kind of looks at things like opinion versus a fact versus something that you can actually investigate versus something that you can actually prove. And also, depending upon the checkability of the claim, some claims might be able to be checked rather quickly. Some claims might take a really long time. And these are kind of discussions that you need to have with your team to determine whether that's something that you can actually engage in. So an example of something that, could be checked is global warming or climate change is a hoax invented by the Chinese government. So this is actually something that you can investigate. This is actually something that you can prove. For example, let's say that this was like a claim that was being reported or repeated by a big politician. Okay, that's something that you should investigate and clarify. Something that you probably shouldn't check okay, pineapple on pizza is the best topping. It's an opinion. You can't check it. Yeah, it's just not going to work. So the next kind of step is contacting the speaker, and you've picked your claim, you've found the claim, and you found the speaker. You found the person who said the claim. So you contact the speaker for two key reasons. One, fairness, and second, it's actually an investigative technique. So on fairness, this is kind of an essential component of fact-checking and journalism's toolkit. You kind of have to ensure that the speaker, the claimant has the opportunity to clarify their claim, but also to ensure that, fairness and accuracy as norms are being followed in the fact-checking process. But it's possible that the speaker of a claim may not reply to your contact request. This happens quite often. This does still mean that you can proceed with the fact check, but you should make it known in the actual body of the fact check that you attempted to contact the speaker, but they didn't provide a reply. On the point of it being an investigative technique, actually contacting the speaker can provide kind of a roadmap to the facts, or a roadmap to their facts. This approach can kind of help you understand the context and the details behind a claim, but also uncover information that may not have actually been widely available. So politicians and other public figures may already be kind of prepared for scrutiny from fact checkers and journalists. So their officers or their teams might have documentation or some other backup that provides evidence or support for their claim. And this documentation can actually help you in the fact-checking process, as you can more easily verify the accuracy of the statements. So even if the documentation isn't like 100% complete, it still kind of points you in the right direction of where you're supposed to go. So in some instances, it's not really possible to contact the speaker. This is like if it's kind of a conspiracy theory, an image that's been manipulated, claims from non-public figures, sort of widespread claims on social media. Obviously, it's difficult to contact the speaker. So in these kind of situations, maybe in a manipulated image, you can try and find the person who created it, for example. But in these kind of instances, it's not strictly necessary. In the next part, this is kind of where you're actually tracing the false claims. This is, quite a time-consuming process. And this is where you kind of employ the verification and analysis strategies that you'll learn in the academy to verify the source, to cross-reference with reliable sources, to sort of see the overall veracity of the claim. And this is kind of the part where you're really integrating the practical knowledge and the practical tools that you'll learn throughout this course. And, you can make use of the tools and the cross-referencing and the verification techniques as kind of like an idea of keeping your detective eye open. So, some things you can actually analyze with the tools, and you can prove that they've been manipulated, or you can prove that like a statement is wrong, for example. But an AI generated image is kind of hard to sort of prove that it's fake, by using tools. So that's when you use your kind of like detective eye. So that's something that we'll also look at later in these modules. The next thing that you're going to do also is that you'll need to work with experts quite often. And this is kind of an important aspect of the fact-checking process. And this is for, reasons of accuracy, context and nuance, credibility and trust, as well as developments in knowledge. So we contact experts because they can provide specialized knowledge necessary to assess a claim. So sometimes there might be a claim that requires a deeper understanding of climate science, economics, medicine, technology. So we then have to contact someone who is an expert in this field. So maybe a new medical treatment comes out. A medical expert could provide insight into clinical trials, existing research, regulatory standards, and so on. So it's kind of important that you can work with experts and that you can find independent experts. You can find people who really are impartial, who really are, knowledgeable in their field. They're up to date with the latest developments and advancements, and ensuring that you work with people who are fair and honest and balanced in their opinions. A mitigating strategy, if such an expert is not possible, is to kind of consult experts who may have opposing opinions on the matter, and then somewhere in the middle, that can be sort of where you're looking for. The next stage is showing your work, and this is where you reveal the investigation, you reveal the fact check to the audience, and this is really kind of part about building trust with the audience and promoting transparency, which are really important currencies for you as a fact checker. So transparency and credibility and integrity are absolutely paramount to your work. So when you're showing your work, when you publish a fact check, it's not, just a best practice. It's absolutely essential for maintaining trust and ensuring the accuracy and integrity of the information that you provide. And this is all about building trust with your audience. This is all about showing that you are accountable as a fact checker, to show that the process is open to scrutiny, to show that fact checkers are not presenting their opinions, but are presenting researched facts. And this also has a very important component of, if I publish a fact check and I show my work, I provide all the evidence, I provide links to where I was able to find the sources and so on, the data, whatever it might be, I should structure the fact check in such a way that someone reading the fact check will be able to follow and come to the same conclusion as me. This is really important for maintaining integrity and trust, as well as transparency with your audience, and also encourages things like critical thinking and educates your audience and so on, and really is kind of demonstrating that you're showing you're demonstrating kind of rigor, you're demonstrating integrity in your methodology. And this is also good because when you kind of show your work, other experts or other fact checkers can review your findings. They can also verify your findings. This kind of like peer review thing, this audience kind of engagement thing is really quite important. So showing your work is absolutely critical. Now, there are kind of two different, let's say, types of fact checks that are also able to be produced. These are kind of pre-bunks and debunks. And this is kind of basically the difference between something before and something after. So whether you're reacting to information or whether you're trying to be proactive to information. So this is known as pre-bunking, or sometimes known as inoculation theory. This basically involves proactively exposing people to false or misleading information before they encounter it. And this comes usually with a correction or an explanation why the information is false. So the goal of pre-bunking is to inoculate, like a vaccine, individuals against believing misinformation by making them aware of common tactics used to spread misinformation, or why exactly the misinformation is false. So you give people a small dose of the misinformation to hopefully build their resistance when they encounter it in the future. So an example of this would be, there's an election coming up in your country and you run a social media campaign, or the government runs a social media campaign, any organization runs one, And the campaign's about educating the public about common types of false information that they might encounter during the election, such as doctored images, misleading statistics, and then kind of explain to people how you can identify these things. So this kind of helps prepare people to question misinformation when they come across it. Inversely, or opposite, or the other type you have is debunking. And debunking is kind of more of the classic example of fact checking, where the misinformation has already been spread, and then what happens is we confront it. So it involves us directly confronting false claims, providing accurate information, and correcting the misconception. So it's really reactive, and it's focusing on fixing or clarifying misinformation that's already taken hold. So an example of this would be a false claim spreads on social media by a politician, and they suggest that a certain vaccine causes some harmful side effects that are not proven. So health experts and fact checkers might issue fact checks or posts or articles or videos debunking this myth by presenting scientific evidence and correcting the misinformation. So these are the two different types. You can either kind of do it reactively in the case of debunking, or proactively in the case of pre-bunking. Pre-bunking can be a little harder, just because it's very hard to account for the things that might come out. But with the example of the election, there are certain circumstances where you can kind of make broad recommendations to the public. All right, so that was the second unit of Module 1. Thank you for joining me again, and I will see you in the next unit.